Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we'll be reading, God willing, from Surah 40, verse 42, starting at 42. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. 42. You invite me to be unappreciative of God and to set up beside him idols that I do not recognize. I am inviting you to the Almighty, the Forgiver. There is no doubt what you invite me to do has no basis in this world, nor in the hereafter, that our ultimate return is to God, and that the transgressors have incurred the hellfire. So someday you will remember what I am telling you now. I leave the judgment of this matter to God. God is seer of all the people. So if we look back real quick, this is the believing Egyptian who debates with his people. And so this is this is during during the time of Pharaoh, where Pharaoh was committing, tyranny and all types of oppression and evil on earth. And when Moses went to him with the proofs, right, this guy had, this believing Egyptian had seen the proofs, and we can see, he accepted and he believed and what came from God, and so he's being a good proponent and advocate for the truth, and he's providing, an excellent reasoning and debate for these people, because he's pretty much calling them out that these on the falsehood and stuff that they're following, and how they basically what they're inviting him to do and inviting everybody else to do is ultimately will end up they're going to end up in hell because of it, and so he's basically asking, like, why are you inviting me to something that is going to be the worst of the worst, while here what Moses is bringing from God, and what this believing Egyptian's also inviting, they're bringing the best deal, and so this is we can see his wisdom too. He knows he can simply do his part, right, but he leaves the judgment to this matter of God, and God is seer of the people. And it's interesting too to see this part too, where he says, someday you will remember what I'm telling you now. So this is somebody who who believes in the hereafter, right? If they're going to say something like this, they obviously know everything is recorded, and that even this incident is going to be remembered on the Day of Judgment. And it will, because this is God's going to be all these people, that, let's say, didn't take heed amongst Pharaoh's people. They're literally going to be recalling this conversation and how they were warned and given, chances from God, but they failed to listen, and they failed to take heed. 45. God then protected him from their evil schemes, while the people of Pharaoh have incurred the worst retribution. So God suffices as the best protector, right, from their evil schemes. So we have an idea of what their schemes and stuff were from the Quran, but to face this type of stuff in person is could be very intense, and very challenging, and possibly even enraging, and in the sense where you see how evil these people are, and tyrannical and stuff, and you can see the oppression and just the wickedness from these people, but Their schemes had no power over the believers. Those who have chosen to believe, and they. We can see here, the destiny for these people is the worst retribution, which is ultimately hell. And so we learn something interesting too from the next verse, verse 46. While in the grave, a continuous nightmare, the hell will be shown to them day and night, and on the day of resurrection, admit Pharaoh's people into the worst retribution. So this is something that's going to be said to Pharaoh and his people, and that they're currently right now they're having to go through, like a pre-torture or I mean, really, it's still torture in the sense where it's a form of hell. Just having to witness this nightmare, as it was talked a little bit about in the previous study. It's in of itself. It's such. Just being in a nightmare for just. Part of a night. A couple of hours or something, and if you've had those before. In your life, we can all remember, waking up sweaty or something, or waking up for some reason. It's usually always on our backside. For a lot of people, it's weird that way, but not that matters. But we can just each time we wake up, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. It's just a nightmare, and we go get some water or something, and then go back to sleep. That's happened before to us, and so that's just that's just something that ends. But for these, it's continuous, and it's probably like the worst nightmare you can't even imagine how bad. And it's not even the day of judgment yet, so, or the day of resurrection. So we can see that they deserve this. And on another note, God tells us these things in the Quran. He does not shy away from this information, lest a soul suffer, right? So, and God doesn't want to send anybody to hell, but it's people. He gives us our free will and freedom of choice, and so we ultimately, these people were given so many chances. He didn't just zap them, right? He gave them many chances, and so there's good examples and lessons for people in this history, and from different points, and too, that this type of behavior, disregarding proofs, when proofs come to you, miracles, and especially in our day and age, we have the mathematical miracles. So, people, when people argue in hell, as we see in the next verse, there's not gonna be any excuses for people, right? Because they've really sent themselves there by their works. As they argue in hell, the followers will say to their leaders, "We used to be your followers. Can you spare us any part of this hell?" The leaders will say, "We are all judged in this together. God has judged among the people." Too late. Those in hellfire will say to the guardians of hell, "Call upon your Lord to reduce the retribution for us, even for one day." 50. They will say, "Did you not receive your messengers who delivered to you clear messages?" They will say, "Yes, we did." They will say, "Then implore as much as you wish." The imploring of the disbelievers is always in vain. So, this is going to be a dialogue for these people, further between the followers and the leaders while they're in hell. And, they're even, it's going to be so bad that the followers are going to ask their leaders, and of course, in this case, we can see, Pharaoh, maybe Haman, and whoever else, the leaders or quote unquote elders, they're gonna be, the followers are gonna be asking, if these leaders can bear part of the load, which is not going to be the case, because the leaders will even say, they're judging this together in the sense that, you were free to reject us in the sense, as there was just like the Egyptian man was saying, in the sense that, the leaders were essentially inviting these people to hell, and then Moses was brought, was inviting them to paradise, essentially, So this is what these people chose this, they chose hell over that. So God is judged among the people equitably, So and we can also see here too that in 49 through 50 that even if they're given another chance, right? The imploring is in vain, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, or even for me to wrap my head around, because it's like these, even while in hell, we know this is the truth, right? Because it's saying the imploring of the disbelievers is always in vain. But even in hell, it's this imploring. It's not. If it's in vain, it means it's not genuine or sincere, or it's just probably to get them out of hell, and then they'll go right back to being evil. And it's kind of like the same exact case as we saw with with the plagues. How God would relieve the plagues for these people, and then they would, as soon as the other plagues was relieved, they turned wicked, right? As soon as they were given comfort and ease and they were saved, essentially, they let me see. Yeah, it means it's useless, right? Okay, yeah. So it's useless for these people to implore, So it does no good. It does no good for these people, because I'm thinking probably of another part where the disbelievers, it's not. If they're given another chance, they would go back and repeat the same mistake, but yes, so it doesn't no good, right? Just like in the same way they're employing their leaders to bear part of the load and the punishment. That's not gonna happen, because really that would probably be unequitable, because these people would not be held fully responsible, because everybody was given the clear messages, right? And they're even going to be questioned about it. And such is the case, we'll get to this one in a second, but verse 53, but, there's lessons in this that God teaches us how when he sends his messengers and prophets especially, to any generation or to any faction of people, he sends them with miracles and proofs, and when people reject them, it's literally they're going to end up as the same, they're going to have the same fate of Pharaoh. And this isn't just for the past generations. This is history that's narrated for us, for this generation. For every subsequent generation that we learn from the past, and that when proof comes to us, that we have to take heed. We have to treat it very serious. Because this is very serious in the sense that this life is very short. And we only get, so many quote-unquote chances, before, we don't want to test the waters or test the limits on how long I can go or how long I can wait until accepting a proof or something, which happens to some people, or for any other reason. So, moving on to verse 51. Guaranteed victory here and forever. Most assuredly, most assuredly we will give victory to our messengers and to those who believe, both in this world and on the day the witnesses are summoned. On that day, the apologies of the disbelievers will not benefit them. They have incurred condemnation. They have incurred the worst destiny. So we can see this is guaranteed victory. even, I don't know the Arabic, but I was just thinking, as I was reading some of these verses this morning earlier this morning, I'd just real quick to like, would help me visualize it even more. We know the whole Quran is like this, but we can see Hamim, HM. And so, that all the H's and the M's, just, I don't know Arabic, but I'm just visualizing, like I'm probably pretty sure there's H's and M's and stuff all through, through this text. And so just thinking of it like that, every single word, and that, just single aspect of the miracle. There's so many other aspects of this 19-based code. We can rest assured that it's all from God, and it's all, it's as true. It's as true as we can rest. Just as we know the sun is going to rise, is going to set. At whatever time it's going to set today, and it's going to rise tomorrow. But in the same way, we can see this. So we can rest assured that all this is indeed true, and that victory does come to the messengers and those who believe. So both in this world and the day, on the day of judgment, and the day, in this case, I guess it's just another, another reference to the day of summoning, or the day of judgment. So this is a good promise from God. So just thinking about this stuff when I read like thinking about the code, the mathematical miracle, and then the sets of letters. It's really a blessing, because and you can look at like the miracle, and then just continually know and reaffirm that everything is true and it's from God, and it helps me in my submission. So, and on that day, the apologies of disbelievers will not benefit them. So instead of apologizing in this world, repenting, reforming, submitting to God alone, most people, as we see, are arrogant, and they're not doing any of that. They're disregarding. They treat the people with arrogance. They whether they realize it or not, they haven't killed their egos, and they've held on to their idols, or their lives, so tightly. They're not ashamed for it, right? But on the day of judgment, all these people are going to be trying to apologize, and we know that's not going to save them, because God has given them a chance now to sincerely repent, reform, and stuff. But and they'll try to do that on the day of judgment, but it's not going to benefit them, right? Because we know it's going to be too late. We know that the soul, these people fail to nourish the soul, and that it's just gonna be too late, because that's that time, that the predetermined end term is up, so you can't grow your soul on the day of judgment. You can't do anything to advance yourself any further. So, 53, we have given Moses the guidance and made the children of Israel inherit the scripture. Their history is a lesson, a reminder for those who possess intelligence. So real quick, this is, we have the history, we have examples like, how God, we can see how God blesses people, and in this case, he saves the children of Israel, right? They were imploring, he pulled them out from adversity, but as soon as, the adversity's over and they're receiving so many blessings and stuff, they revert. And so this is a lesson, for anybody, not just them. Any faction or generation of people that you don't want to be the bad weather friends, or these types of people that revert or fall into idol worship after. You have to and also in the sense of being appreciative too, because we know that there was only two believing people with Moses after Maybe it was Aaron and that believing Egyptian, we read about. I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate or anything, but just from the way it's mentioned, I mean, but besides the fact that they turned unappreciative, for God's blessings, and so we can see how they're appreciative, are appreciative for their own good, and that it doesn't. It only helps them. God doesn't need us or anything. That's why we have to be appreciative, and not. We can see what happened to the children of Israel because of that. Therefore, be patient, for God's promise is true, and ask forgiveness for your sin, and glorify and praise your Lord night and day. Surely those who argue against God's revelations without proof are exposing the arrogance that is hidden inside their chests, and they are not even aware of it. Therefore, seek refuge in God. He is here, the seer. So yeah, people who argue against God's revelations without proof are, indeed exposing the arrogance that's in their chest and their hearts. I mean, it's like, imagine, imagine, you have a closed door and you walk up to, and there's this color behind the door. Let's say it's blue, and you walk up to these people and the color, and you tell these people the color or something. Maybe this is a bad example, but these people are so arrogant to say no. It's like, and they haven't seen what's behind that door, and they're so arrogant to say, no, this color's red, and they have no proof of what it is, what color it is. They're just the level of arrogance is beyond me, so beyond comprehension. So it's similar in the sense where these people have no proof, right, of what they're arguing for, and without even taking an opportunity or to maybe question, maybe everything I was following from my parents and whatnot was wrong. They just they argue against the truth, without any basis. So this is just it's in a way serving a purpose. These people expose themselves for being very, very arrogant, which we know those types of people always lose. Awesome construction of the universe. The creation of the heavens and the earth is even more awesome than the creation of the human being, but most people do not know. Not equal are the blind and the seer, nor are those who believe and work righteousness equal to the sinners. Rarely do you take heed. So we can see the distinction between these two types, right? Just like a blind person is not the same as someone who has their eyesight right in this world, and so it's the same, as someone who's been guided only because they want to be. Really, it's because of God, God guiding them, right? It's only because of God guiding them, and that's because they wanted to be guided and they chose, to accept the guidance, and God could easily take away guidance if He wills to. But the people who are blind choose basically, choose to remain blind to the truth, so, these two people aren't the same in a sense, because one can see the truth, one can't, just like a blind person can't do anything without, can't do anything in comparison, can't do much in comparison to someone who still has their eyesight in this world. So people who think, that they're going to be exclusively in heaven or something, like these people that are so sure about themselves, like these, I saw this reel yesterday on I think Instagram, like about Jehovah's Witnesses and no, it was Pentecostals and Baptists, and it was they were both acting as if they already got in heaven, and that they were fighting in heaven too. Like it showed a man and like some sheep or something, like the man was like hitting the sheep, and the title was like, oh, after getting into heaven, and I think the man was like the Baptist and the sheep or something was the Pentecostals, and a lot of people liked it and stuff, but it's just ridiculous in the sense that these people are so sure about themselves, like they're not. They think it's all cut and dry, but I mean they don't have any idea, So moving on to verse 59, most certainly the hour, day of judgment is coming, no doubt about it, but most people do not believe. Supplication, a form of worship. Your Lord says, implore me, and I will respond to you. Surely those who are too arrogant to worship me will enter Gehenna forcibly. So God is telling us to, there's a footnote with this, and God is telling us, supplication and imploring God is a form of worship, and those who are too arrogant to do this are going to enter hell. So whether you ask God for guidance or help, passing your admission test, or it could be anything, or you ask Him for a good grade, or at least to pass, let's say a test, or for, let's just say for today, at your work, for it to go smoothly, just like all the other days, And it's also important too, because things have been going well, let's say at your work, you should still ask, like, not just assume that everything, is because it shows that you're bearing witness that God is running everything. Also, and that only He's the one who can help you, help you, or will that you get in adversity, and that He's in control. So it's a form of worship. So supplication, imploring God for anything, even material luxuries, is a form of worship. Hence the commandment to implore God whenever we have a need, right? So an atheist will never implore God for anything, right? Because they're so arrogant. They either think they can get it themselves, or they're just too arrogant to even ask God for something. So we can see the atheists aren't going to succeed. And I mean, even if like people like, oh, well, like I have all this, I have a house, all this money and stuff, I'm an atheist, well, it's just, I mean, that's all temporary, that doesn't mean anything, because as we know, God provides for both the believers and disbelievers in this world, but on the day of resurrection, day of judgment, that all the provisions and stuff for the disbelievers are gonna be null. They're gonna be taken. They're not gonna be provided for. So God is the one who designed the night so you can rest in it, and the day lighted. God bestows many blessings upon the people, but most people are not thankful. Such is God, your Lord, the creator of all things. There is no God except He. How could you deviate? So, if you ask anybody, they would, any person from any religion that has some type of religious belief, or that says they believe, they would bear witness to this, right? But then when you tell them to quit worshiping their idols, they can't do that, And when you remind them that their idols aren't here, that they're, that they're not here, they're not here on this earth. They don't know you. They probably don't care about you like you think you do. Like, when they say, oh, so and so loves you. You see these ignoramus billboards and stuff. They don't think about this stuff really. So why, you ask them, why would you worship the one that can't do these things for you, but they're just so entrenched in their idolatry. It's hard to shake them out of it. That's them deviating, right? You're asking these people, like, there's no God, no other God but God. There's no God that can provide for you. Your idols can't provide for you. So why are you deviating? But they don't really have much of an answer other than whatever they say. Deviating are those who disregard God's revelations, God is the one who rendered the earth habitable for you and the sky a formidable structure, and he designed you and designed you well. He is the one who provides you with good provisions. Such is God, your Lord. Most exalted is God, Lord of the universe. So this has a footnote. See footnotes 15, 20, 20, 54, 25, 2, 35, 12 to 13. But, he's, just like I was mentioning, when you ask, these people, even some people still even think it's okay to worship God, the one who provides, but it's also okay to worship their idols, which that's to think wrongly about God. They have the incorrect thoughts about the Creator, because their Creator wouldn't even, this is not acceptable. Just in the same way, if you ask these people, or if you, used examples in the Quran about, giving up part of your, properties, or even maybe your whole property to your subordinates. I mean, they sure wouldn't stand for it. So why should they think God would, it would be unjust too, because you should only worship the one that initiated you, that could, give you life, the bringer of death. And so to do anything else is not wise. But as we see, most people are too arrogant to take heed. And so this is where we have to, the proofs that we have today and the miracle, is going to be a big factor in convincing people, those who wish to take heed too. He is the living, there is no God except He. You shall worship Him alone, devoting your religion absolutely to Him alone. Praise be to God, Lord of the universe. So, you should devote your religion to worshiping God alone, to Him alone. No idols, or not any human, or anything else but God. This is the only path that's laid out for us, and this is the best path that leads to happiness too. Before God's blessings upon him, Muhammad used to worship idols. Say, I have been enjoined from worshiping the idols you worship beside God. When the clear revelations came to me from my Lord, I was commanded to submit to the Lord of the universe. So this has a footnote. The Arabic word naha, if I'm saying that correctly, used in this verse indicates the stopping of something that was going on. See, for example, the same word in 4:171. See also 93:7. So, if you look back at the Arabic, you'll see the word naha, if I'm saying that right. And that means, in this context, just like what we read, it means to stop something that you were doing, So this is proof, it's just not. It's just telling us that, Muhammad did used to worship idols prior to before God's blessings upon him, and before the Quran was put in his heart. Given to Muhammad. He is the one who created you from dust, and subsequently from a tiny drop, then from a hanging embryo. Then he brings you out as a child, then he lets you reach maturity, then you become old. Some of you die earlier. You attain a predetermined age that you may understand. So I'm not sure how I'm doing on time, but I'm just going to kind of speed things up. He is the one who controls life and death. To have anything done, he simply says to it be, and it is. There's so many reminders and blessings, just to think that we were nothing, right? We were helpless too. We couldn't even provide for ourselves. We didn't grow our arm, we didn't, just think one day or come into existence and then just decide to grow an ear or 2 eyeballs. Like, we didn't do any of that. We didn't even have to think about that. That's a blessing from God that, he gives everybody, you know. And so this is ways, you know, when we read this, we can you know, think about that and become, you know, it helps us, reminds us to be appreciative for these things, you know, because you know, there's, you know, there's a lot of people in the world that take this stuff for granted, and you know, we don't want to be like those people. You know, so and we can see, you know, as soon as, generally speaking, as soon as somebody loses something, right, it could be, let's say they lost an eyeball or something. Well, at least they have another eye. You know, they're not completely blind. You know, that's one way to look at it. But I mean, you know, then they you know, generally, you know, they implore God and all that, and you know, they you know, and let's just say they, you know, they got their eye back or something, you know, then they kind of, like the Quran says, they go on and forget their imploring, you know, and they end up worshiping idols, or they'll think, you know, some surgery went well, like we know from that it's mentioned, you know, by the messenger. I mean, you can see it. They end up thinking St. Jude or something, or some, you know, goofy hospital name, or some goofy saint that we don't even know actually existed. You know, because I think a lot of these saints, St. Jude and stuff, they weren't even. There's no. There's just some of it is just hearsay, and it's not even documented that these people, so not all, you know, but some of these saints. Have you noted those who argue against God's proof and how they have deviated? And so, you know, these people that argue against God's proof, they have nothing, you know. I mean, just like, you know, I think I had a run-in with somebody like a couple weeks ago, and all they could do is just, Brother Suleiman saw too, but I mean, all they could do is just holler slurs and insults, like, just out of pure ignorance, you know, against Islam or something, his preconceived notions about Islam and Muhammad. But like, these people, they can do that all day long, but they don't have any proofs, you know, like they don't, you know. But thank God, you know, we have the Quran and the mathematical miracle, and so when you show if these people are willing to actually look at it or sit down, or, you know, figuratively speaking, sit down, because I mean, you're not near them in this case, but. And actually look at this stuff, and you know, it can be the biggest blessing or the biggest curse for these people, honestly. Because if they don't take heed, it would be better if they never even got it in the first place. Because the retribution, you know, it's gonna be that much more, because you got something so profound and so great and so powerful, and you rejected it. But, and it's not to say we're thinking like, oh, like, don't show this in the first place, because we have to go with the mindset and intention that, you know, treat everybody as a potential believer, you know. But until they give you a reason otherwise, you know, you know, you can be done with them. I mean, once they give you a reason otherwise. They're the ones who have disbelieved in the scripture and in the messages we have sent with our messengers. Therefore, they will surely find out. And it's funny because Brother Suleiman actually said that, you know, the example I'm giving, he said this to this person because they were very, very wicked in some of the things they were saying, and just very stupid too and ignorant. I'm not going to repeat the stuff, but I mean, this is the case. They're gonna find out, you know, and they're just like, you know, in the verse we read earlier, they're so arrogant that they're arguing against God's revelations. I think even before, you know, I don't want to go back, but they're basically arguing against God's revelations without even inquiring about, you know, or it's exposing the arrogance that's hidden within their chest, you know. So we can see that these people are very bad, and they probably don't deserve to be guided, but, you know, based on, you know, after the conversations, we could see that was the case. But you know, the shackles will be around their necks, and the chains will be used to drag them, you know. So yeah, this is the consequence, and this is not something that anybody in the right mind wants to be a part of or happen to, you know. So there's a tremendous responsibility once you get this message, and you know, God willing, He'll help us succeed and protect us from such evil people and disbelieving people. So with that said, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah, I wanted to make a comment on verse 51. God says, guaranteed victory. Subtitle says, guaranteed victory here and forever. So this is God's assurance. He's guaranteeing. He's saying most assuredly, He will give victory to the messengers and those, not just the messengers, but also those who believe with the messengers, and not just in the hereafter, but also in this world. God makes sure that the believers are happy and protected once they pass the admissions test. God makes sure that no harm comes near them. We have a great example, description of God's protection, and for example, Psalms 91. A lot of detail on how God protects us, through His angels, and His, divine protection is all around the believers, and He makes sure that, anything that we really need or we really want or we care about, God gives it to us. God answers the prayers of His servants and gives them, victory in this world and in the hereafter, as a reward, for being on the right path. Even though, God doesn't need to do any of this, right? But we just needed to be saved, which is a blessing, But God doesn't have to do all that for us, We were people who didn't side with God's absolute authority in the beginning, God could just say, that He would not punish us, but on top of that, not only does He not punish these people, but He rewards them generously, more than we can imagine, if we believe and lead a righteous life. That's a great blessing. Yeah, also, we See, verse 55 is another reminder for us that it is very important for us to remember God day and night. Of course, you will remember, the one who is your God day and night. If it's something else you're thinking about day and night, then that is your God. But if you worship God alone, then you should remember God day and night, even in your sleep. You think about God, and this is something that we are reminded of here too. That it says, be patient and glorify and praise your Lord night and day. So not just even thinking about God, but also glorifying Him and praising Him. Meditating on His name and praising Him is worship. I mean, even thinking about God is worship, right? But praising and glorifying Him, you want to go beyond just thinking about Him. You want to worship Him. You want to meditate, and just sing His praises as much as you can, because uh, this life is just so temporary that, and we see how things go. I mean, we spend so much of our time every day doing other things in this world, right? But we know that all of that is going to stay here, and we're not going to take any of this back with us. And so all that time that we spend doing other things, a lot of that time is just wasted, right? The only thing that remains is our worship that we're taking with us, right? So if we think about it in this manner, should remind us that we have to worship God. And that also tells us that we have to spend our time in this world really wisely too, because like as the messenger of the covenant explained, he said anything you do that doesn't have anything to do with growing your soul is a waste of time, right? And so you might think, yeah, I mean, if you think of it that way, of course, there's things we have to do, right? We have to go to work, we have to do things. But anything other than that, that's not important, we have to reprioritize our life, I mean, how are you going to spend your time in this world, right? I mean, um, people spend their time doing meaningless things in this world, right? And just because we think that we have a lot of time, and yes, we have to worship God, and we have a lot of time to worship God, but we shouldn't think about it that way. I mean, we should think about the chance that God has given us. That time that God has given us is very precious. When God talks about not wasting anything, time is the most important commodity, most the precious thing that you have, in the sense of not wanting to waste it. Right? Once this time is gone, this time for you to grow your soul, this time for you to worship God, make your God. I mean, that time is not going to come back, right? I mean, you could uh, get much higher in your ranks if you spend your time wisely like this, right? Versus someone who just, does whatever they want. Of course, I mean, they might, depending on everybody's growth of soul, everybody will get whatever they deserve, right? But at the end of the day, who worked hard, in worshiping God and striving and praising God, obviously will have the higher ranks, right? God says the strivers of the higher ranks. And so the more you work, I mean, of course, towards coming closer to God, the better your ranks are going to be. So it's not like you're doing some kind of injustice to yourself, or you're losing on anything in this world. I mean, believe me, anything in this world, there's nothing in this world that is more precious to us than our soul and worshiping God and making sure that God is our God, because this goes towards our eternal life, right? So we have to be very wise, I think, in spending our time and thinking about what we're doing, whether it's going to bring us closer to God or not. And the answer is no, then we should better reprioritize our lives. Anyone has any comments or questions?
When we look at verse 49, so the people in hellfire says, "Call upon your Lord to reduce the retribution for us for even one day." So when we think about that, it actually shows that how hell is bad, you know. And another verse, like in Surah 43, verse 77, and those people say that, "O Malik, let your Lord finish us off," and he will say, you are staying forever. So God here says that actually hell is so bad that you can't think of, you know. It's really it should scare us for some point, but as believers, you know, we should always think about that hell is bad, but we are very lucky to get the right message. So we have to work hard, as you know, and as Süleyman brother said. So there will be, there will be no excuse after these descriptions. You know, they can't say that, "Oh, we didn't know how hell was bad," because God explained all the details, actually descriptions.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, really, it is so terrible. And they won't even get at one day, like 1 minute. You know, God says there's no reduction in anything. Once they're in it, just so bad. Like, even if you think about like the worst torture, you know, in this world, you know, at some point, you know, it will end. Like, you know, the person torturing you is gonna get tired and stop. You know, but with the system that God has created in hell, I mean, there's no such thing. I mean, you know, this torment is gonna continue forever. Like, it's beyond our imagination. Clearly.
Yeah, definitely. And some people even can't believe that, you know. They say, "Oh, hell is not forever; it's temporary." Like they get the retribution for what they did, you know, so far. So they end up in heaven eventually. So they can't believe that hell is forever.
Yeah, I mean that's the common perception, right? But the thing is that these people clearly that shows that these people clearly don't believe in the hereafter, because when they say we believe in the hereafter, doesn't mean that they just believe that the hereafter exists. That also means that they believe that the hereafter is what God says it is, right? Just believing that you will be resurrected is not enough. Even if you don't understand that it is forever, right? I can't say I believe in the hereafter and then say, well, I don't believe it's going to be forever. Then I don't believe in the hereafter that God is talking about. Because the hereafter that God is talking about is the one that is going to be forever. Hell is going to be forever, and heaven is going to be forever, right? So that's another aspect that exposes the disbelievers when they say that they believe in the hereafter, where they actually don't believe in the hereafter.
Yes, definitely. And in verse 47, these people say that, "We used to be your followers. Can you spare us any part of this hell?" I mean, they even can't understand the concept of worshiping God alone. You know, they even in hell they implored other idols, their leaders. You know, they say, "Can you spare us any part of this hell?" You know, they still follow their wrong decisions, wrong ideas. Like they even, I don't know, maybe you can agree or not. They they still, I mean, don't believe in God. You know, they still maybe thinking about like there may be any God, so he or she will save me in this hell. I mean, it's unbelievable for me to read these descriptions and dialogues actually.
It's like they're still idol worshiping in hell, like despite instead of calling on God, but maybe, maybe they're forbidden from speaking to God or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's a good point. They're still,
Yeah, I mean, they're not actually worshiping idols in the hereafter, because in the hereafter, everything is made clear, right? They say they've seen the truth, now they believe, and they're actually in the hereafter burning because of their idol worship. So no, they do understand.
yeah, so they know, right?
Sorry, I was eating dry coconut, and I think it got stuck in my throat. Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, so I'm fine. So
Okay.
I'm saying they do believe in that sense, like, I mean, now they got the punishment, right? So they understand that they're in hell because they committed idol worship. And now when they're burning in hell and paying the price, I mean, there's really no exit for them, right? But I think it's more like things they're saying is out of desperation, like, I mean, in the here, like, when you're desperate, you just even like the idea that something or someone could help you in some way. I mean, yeah, it's idol worship in that sense, right? But they can't. It's just showing the amount of desperation that they can't find a way out.
Right.
But I mean, as far as the belief, they don't truly believe that these people can help them. But
Yeah,
because they're burning for it now.
yeah, it's like a hopeless, like they're, it's like a whim, like it's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like a hopeless whim that they're trying to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, imagine there's probably going to be people calling on Jesus and stuff, or maybe that'll be the day of judgment,
Mm-hmm.
but, I mean, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
is definitely going to be a day of judgment, because, I mean, even he
Yeah,
says,
and especially because there's other people, because the leaders are telling them, they're saying, no, we can't do anything. And so now we have to suffer. So it's not like, I mean, the leaders were idol worshippers too, but they're not calling on Jesus or Muhammad or anybody like that, right? It's just their leaders inside. They're saying, hey, I mean, we followed you. Like, can't you say something to God? Like, it was my fault and let them go or something. I mean, people are going to say anything at that time. I mean, they're going to be fighting and bickering and whatever, like, it's not even like they'll be thinking logically, like, okay, how do we get out of here? But I mean, it's like they want. It just shows that they really, it's a regret. Like, I mean, of course, but they just want to get out of hell, like, no matter what. Like, whoever can get them out, in whatever way, they don't care. Yeah, but as far as being really wanting, I mean, as far as them actually worshiping them, they wouldn't be worshiping them. But what they're saying obviously reflects. We can see that they still don't get it in some way. you know, yeah. It's like sometimes that something's not working, and something else is not gonna work, but you're gonna try anyways.
right, you're gonna
Oh, let me
exhaust,
try this
you're
thing.
gonna exhaust all measures,
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
Even if you know there's like it's probably not
right.
gonna work.
hmm
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
desperate.
hmm
Yeah, good comment on like prioritization. And not doing things that don't have anything to do with God. Like I have a question on that too. So
hmm
like blessings and stuff in this world. I mean, it is pretty clear cut. Like if it's not anything to do with God, or if it's not some form of worship, we really probably
hmm
shouldn't do it. Even
hmm
if it's like playing a game or something. Like I was thinking
hmm
about that. Like, I mean, there's no way
hmm
to like even if you play for 30 minutes or something, or like or even kick a soccer ball or something. Like, is there? We could think about like if we're outside. I mean, we could think about the grass or something. I mean, that's ways to worship God, like while doing something like that. You know, because I mean, I kind of, I know I remember like you had mentioned, how the messenger had said, if you don't, he said anything else is a waste of time. So. I mean, obviously we have like the stuff that's necessary and stuff. Like we have to go to work and like for the provisions and take a shower and brush our teeth and do all that other stuff. But what
Right.
are your
So,
thoughts on
so
all
like, yeah, Marshall. I mean, I think it's an excellent question because, like, when you think about it, for example, like in the case of Solomon, right? He loved his horses, and he spent enough time with the horses that he enjoyed it so much that he forgot missed his afternoon prayer, right? So we know that things like that will happen, right? Like we do things, and I think what you said makes sense in terms of blessings that God has given us. We can enjoy them, like for example, spending time with your family. You want to play ball with your kids or something or whatever, or spend time with your spouse or do play your favorite sport or do something. I mean, these are all good things, right? But I think the important thing is the balance and the prioritization, right? I mean, if we do it, I believe in some like moderate fashion, where God is our priority, and maybe we have some time for relaxation, here and there, but really when you think about it, I mean, games is one thing, right? But like just prioritizing your life. I mean, when you think about things that you love, right? So I think when you think about it in terms of prioritization, like things change, right? I mean, something that is a very low priority to you, will come like at the very end. Like you have so many
right,
things to do,
yeah,
and it will fall in some place where you probably will happen, rarely when exceptional times when you have. But some things of a higher priority, you'll make sure you'll do that before you do other things, right?
right,
And so when it comes to worshiping God, like I think when we wake up in the morning, like we should tell ourselves, my goal today is to worship God, right?
yeah. That's an
And
excellent
how much,
reminder. Yeah, we should start our day like
mashallah,
that. Yeah, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, it's mashallah. So I was gonna say, so then we work towards our goal, and we think, I mean, how focused we are, and then if we feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and then you have done all your part, let's say for whatever you wanted to do for the day, and you think that you have done enough, and you have some time, and you can set aside for these things also, right? But I think we have to sort of like monitor
Right,
our time
like
in that sense, a
self-monitor.
little bit.
Yeah, that's very good to
Yeah.
be that way. Yeah,
hmm
and like you said, it's like these, that we can think about God, because like I was thinking like,
hmm
even if I'm playing a game for like 20 minutes, I can listen to the Quran on my headphones and like be
hmm
playing and thinking about like, and if I see a sky or some grass or something, I can
hmm
say Subhanallah,
hmm
or like we're at,
hmm
let's say we're exercising, for our health, being
hmm
appreciative for God's, lungs and the
hmm
hearts He given us. That's weighted. If we think
hmm
about it like that, and if we can listen to some music, like I
hmm
like listening to the album music, Submitter's
hmm
album, and that's always.
hmm
So yeah, it's just like balancing, right?
hmm
Monitoring ourselves and like thinking, when we wake up, and I mean, even like you said too, when we sleep, when we toss and turn, sometimes,
hmm
if we try hard enough, maybe we can think about God, or like, oh man, the
hmm
pillow is so comfortable, thank you, God. Like,
hmm
it's so relaxing to
Yeah.
sleep, or say Bismillah and then go back to bed or something.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, and I think really when it comes to other things, we can have our intentions correctly. See an earwig. We see our intentions correctly. I just sent an earwig to have it. Okay. We see our intentions correctly because, like, let's say you go to work and you know you are working, but you know your intention is to work so you can get paid and you know use the money to spend in the cause of God. I mean, and if you're thinking that way, you know that time you're spending is counted towards worshiping God because you're still thinking about God. And in the same way, like say you're working out or something, I mean, you can think like, well, you know, God wants me to be strong so I can strive in His cause, and you know, be healthy so I can strive in His cause. I
Mm-hmm.
can, you know, do things in the cause of God. You know, um, and
Or like even you're driving
so,
and stuff, you could look at the sky and the clouds and
hmm
stuff and be
hmm
say
yeah,
subhanallah, you know. Like you
yeah. I
could
mean, God says, you know, you can, you should muster all the power you can to frighten God's enemies.
right.
Right? You can think of it
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Yeah. No.
hmm Right.
Yeah, subhanallah.
But yeah, I mean, we have to. So eventually, it all comes down to that, right? But you know, you can't do that for everything. You know, and sometimes, you know, we could just be telling ourselves like, yeah, I'm thinking about God. You know, when we're not, we're just killing that time, just like killing it, like we're like in like some kind of zone where we just blank out, so we don't think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so we
Yeah,
should
cause
think
yeah,
about that.
sometimes
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like you said, the monitor. Cause
yeah.
sometimes you can be so in like so zoned in on something or fixing a
Focus.
problem
Yeah.
at work, you
Mhm.
know, and it's like it's
Mhm.
you know, looking back like a few days ago, I could have you know asked God to help me like figure out the issue
Mhm.
or something, you know, and instead of just like kind of like you said, if
Mhm.
we're monitoring ourselves and you know
Mhm. Mhm.
we could step back and then yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like even at work, you know, if you're having an issue, like you said, you know, you need to solve something. I mean, you ask God first, you know, like God help me solve this. Or if you were able to solve it, you know, you thank God that you were able to solve
Yeah,
this.
exactly. Yeah,
That
you can
God's
thank him
leading, God
after,
helped you, you
right?
know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, brother Abdullah,
And not objecting and getting frustrated.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's another way. So, right, that's something can be
Mhm.
like, oh man, why did this go down or why did this happen? And like, or just say,
Mhm.
Alhamdulillah, I'll go there and fix it. And, you know,
Mhm.
yeah. Brother
Yeah,
Abdullah said,
complaining.
use the provisions bestowed upon you by God to seek the abode of the hereafter without neglecting your share in this world. Be charitable as God has been charitable towards you. Do not keep on corrupting the earth. God does not love the corruptors. That's from Surah 28, verse 77, for those listening.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, brother, do you wanna elaborate on your comments?
I thought it is relevant to what we talk
Uh
so
huh.
far. Like
Okay.
God says, without neglecting your share in this world.
Mhm. Yeah. So I mean, when we have our provisions, we don't want to give everything in the cause of God, right? You have to give some, provide some. Like you need food, you need water, you need to pay your bills. So and you need to, you know, do whatever you need with the money. So you use that. Uh, you know, also you can't give everything in the cause of God. So I think you're relating it also to these things, right? Like without neglect, wouldn't. I mean, I think I'm, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. I mean,
Right.
you want God's blessings, provisions by worshiping God alone,
Mm-hmm.
and you also, uh, how do I say it? Like you don't give up the world. You know, you work, you go to work,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like you eat something. I mean, these kind of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
you live, you try to live in this world. Like you do these kind of things, and as well as worshiping God alone. You know, like you said, there is a balance. but we always prioritize worshiping God alone.
Yeah, I mean, and like what we're saying is the things we can do, like work, you know. I mean, you can use your work as you can make it into worship by having the right intentions when you're going to work, right? Why are you going to work? Because, I want to get the provision so I can strive in the cause of God. Now your work turns into worship, right? So, I mean, God has showed us ways and means to live, right? I mean, we spend time eating also. I mean, it doesn't mean you should stop eating and just say subhanallah, subhanallah, right? But no, I mean, you're gonna eat, of course, and you should eat if you want to live. But you use that time to think about the food. Think about the texture, the color, the flavor. And praise God, thank God for it. So that becomes turned into worship. So that can apply towards a lot of things, right? But then, and that's fine, right? But then we see, yeah, mashallah. So, mataki. So, but then the messenger of the covenant talks about there is such a thing, right? Where people do a lot of things. Like, let's say I want to play golf for 7 hours a day. I could say, yeah, I'm playing golf 7 hours a day, but like I'm walking on the grass and I'm thinking about God, and he may not be thinking about God. He may just be thinking about golf and just socializing, whatever, right? So, the messenger of the covenant talks about this. He says, well, anything you're doing, if it doesn't have to do anything with growing your soul, that is a waste of time. Now, it's up to you how much time you can waste. I mean, you can afford to waste some time, and of course, there has to be time that gets wasted, right? But we could use that time to and not waste it, and still do the same things that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Just by having the right intentions as well, right? But there's a lot of things that you just simply won't be able to justify, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
That's
So,
what
for
I
example,
mean.
like, yeah. For example, like I can do, let's say, and you think about that way, right? Like, let's say, like, I can do my weekly. I'm just giving an example. Maybe that's a terrible example, but let's say, I can do my shopping once a week. Get all my shopping and save time, or I can go every day and do my shopping. Right now, I know doing my shopping is not necessarily going to really grow my soul. So it's really beneficial to me that I do it in a way that is efficient, that I spend little time doing something meaningless. I mean, of course, it's essential, right? But I don't have to spend an entire day shopping for that week too. I mean, that would be wrong too, right? So I would do it in a way where, okay, I need stuff. I do it, get it done as quickly as possible in the most efficient way so I can spend more time and use it towards something that's more meaningful. I'm just giving an example, right? Maybe shopping is not a very good example. It could be other things too, right? But let's say it comes to like socializing an example that was mentioned in the Quran, right? Like women excessively mingling with other women and stuff, like going and talking and spending time having vain conversations, right? That is another way of thinking about it, right? So, I mean, you want to do that every day? Probably not. You should maybe do, once in a week or whatever, just go out and talk to your friends and catch up, I guess. But, there is something as the message of the covenant talks about, wasting time. Something, I mean, it could mean different things to different people, I'd say, right? Because different people look at things different way. I mean, some people think about more when they're doing certain things. It might make more sense to them to do that, right? That's why there's no prohibitions like, hey, you cannot play games, or hey, you cannot work out or anything like that. Of course, we're not traditional Muslims, right? But you just have to monitor yourself and see how you're spending your time. If you're doing things in your life where you think it's not doing anything to help you grow your soul, yeah, you might feel good, you might enjoy doing it too, but really, I mean, people do waste time in this world. So we shouldn't be one of those people, right? And there are people, I would say, there are people that call themselves submitters, And I mean, they would waste a lot of time, doing meaningless things because they think, oh, we just have to do our 5 prayers and we have to give to charity, which is good enough, but not. It's not probably something that you should limit your submission to, right? I mean, God wants you to be a striver, a hard worker, and if you want to get the good ranks, really, and if you want to make sure that you make it to paradise, you want to be one of those people, right? Like someone, if you think about it academically, right? Someone who wants to get the highest grades, doesn't spend the same amount of time studying than someone who just passes the exam, right? Someone who aces the exams is the one who's spending a lot of his time, devoting himself to studying hard, right? Working hard, and those are the people that will be successful of naturally academically, right? So in the same way, I mean, how people expect to enter paradise, they're not. Those people are not spending, 8 9 hours a day in front of the TV or playing games and stuff, right? They're studying because for them it's more important, right? Yes, it's more painful, but God says with pain there's gain, right? So they're using their time wisely. They're disciplining themselves. They're doing stuff, planning, scheduling their studies, everything, right? On track, and that's how they succeed, right? So I think the same goes towards submission. I mean, our submission and devotion to God, how we distribute our time, throughout the day, counts towards that final rank that we all will receive, on the day of judgment.
MashaAllah, this topic is so important, brother. Because, in the day of judgment, that's all that's going to matter, the growth of your soul. So it's very important and good explanations, MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah. Thank you, brother. Mashallah. So I had a question, mashallah, good discussion. I had a question about verse 57, awesome construction of the universe. The creation of the heavens and the earth is even more awesome than the creation of the human being, but most people do not know. So, how do y'all look at that? I guess the way I thought about it was just like, I guess, because I know the human being is very, like, just the bodily systems and stuff is super complex. But I guess, if you look out to the universe, there's like so many star systems and galaxies and like nebulas and like so many cool space or type phenomenons and stuff. How do you all understand this verse?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, I've thought about it before also, and I think, like, if you think about it in terms of the massive sizes of all these objects, you know, that that also plays a factor. All the physics, all the laws of physics that are involved in making something like that happen. It's the same
Yeah,
as
that's true.
the
Yeah, the
human,
laws of
you
physics
know.
are so right. I didn't
hmm
think about that.
Yeah, and it's the same as the human body too. Like, but the human body is only so big, right? Like, yeah, I mean, there's too much going on inside it, but it's still like sort of it's still small in structure in that sense, right? And then and then it's easy for him to make one or a million or however many, right? But if you think about the universes, I mean, just even the first universe, this universe, right? I mean, there's so many different. Uh, there's decillions of heavenly bodies, suspended, and they all have their different orbits, right? And so all of that, I mean, and doing it in a way that God has done, the Big Bang with the Big Bang. So all of that had to be calculated too, right? So I mean, and there's a lot more than we know, obviously, about space also, right? But everything we know itself is like all these elements in nature, like the black holes and all this other stuff that's happening in space. So those are phenomena that we don't even know about, right? Um, and how the stars are
Yeah, like
born and how they die. I mean, they're all creatures too, like us, you know. So I mean, we only see what we see with our eyes, but God knows truly like how intricate these things are also, right?
yeah,
I mean, they may even have a way to communicate with each other. We don't know,
right. Yeah, like the
right?
black holes and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
like the physics. He said. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like we only think like I mean even the top scientists like are still perplexed with black holes and like you
Mm-hmm.
know and that's just and there's who knows how many black holes. There's different types, I think, but yeah, it's like such a
Mm-hmm.
mystery too, and it's like that verse in 20 in Surah 27, I think, like God
Mm-hmm.
knows all the mysteries of the heavens and the earth. I mean, subhanallah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, and you see all these galaxies, how they are all in harmony, you know?
yeah, and the
Mm-hmm.
colors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
So many proofs for people too. You know, just to
Mm-hmm.
be appreciative.
Yeah. And just think about it, like, you know, how we're suspended in space, we're part of it, and how like we are on Earth, like we're this Earth is moving at like,
So
you
fast,
know,
yeah.
yeah, thousands of miles an hour, right? If you also you know, put in the equation the solar system and the galaxies also, you know, being in motion, right? And I mean, at least I don't know if it's in thousands, but I know it's in at least in hundreds. For sure, it's in thousands, I think, you know.
Hmm.
And but we don't even feel like, you know, when you go like over 100 miles in the best car in the world, you know, you're still gonna feel it, the vibration and the air and everything, right? But God has made it so smooth. You don't even feel it, right? God says this awesome construction of the mountains and the universe, like, you know, we think they're standing still, but they're actually moving, right? So how
Yeah,
God made all of
exactly.
this work, you know, and the gravity, you know, and all these things, they just I mean, for us, it we can only see big round structures, right? But we don't see what goes behind it, what is keeping them and stable, and you know all the calculation that goes into it, right? That's also important, right? Like for example, you know, it's like the human body. If you think about the human body, you know, you it's or like let's think about electronics, right? So like when you're building something with electronics, like it's easy to build something. You created something with wires and stuff, right? Like the human body, right, which has all these wires and stuff. It's easier than if you had to create a structure that was all wirelessly communicating with the whole thing just working on its own, right? You have
Hmm.
independent units. Like say the heart was, you know, had no wires, you know, no veins, and then there was a brain, but it had no veins, you know, like it all had some magnetic forces and stuff interacting with each other. It would be very like complicated, you know, to even in that sense, right? It would be,
Yeah,
like if
very
you build something
difficult.
electronics, you know, and
Uh,
you don't have all these connections in place, and you have to do everything wirelessly, it becomes that more challenging
yeah,
in
your
some
Wi-Fi for the heart
scenarios.
might interfere with the Wi-Fi for the liver or something.
Yeah, yeah, and you're just doing all these
Yeah,
forces, yeah, physical
yeah.
forces together, right? And and so if you think about it in space, I mean, all these bodies are there. God has set in motion so that, you know, it all works. It all just works, you know, like we say for this technology, you know, just works. That
Hmm.
nothing breaks, right? And there's no bugs, and all of. I mean, there's so many of them, right? And we're still the Earth is still, uh, you know, pretty much untouched by all of this. You know, all of this has been set in motion by God's command for us. Um,
Yeah, like there's no
so, you know,
glitches
it's,
either. You know, like one day the sun just
mhm.
doesn't, doesn't hit
Yeah,
its
it starts
furnace.
flickering.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, imagine if it started
it turns
flickering.
off.
Yeah, if it turns off or something.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently. Yeah, never.
and all the energies that they emit. I mean, all of this is it's all mathematics, you know, like precisely calculated, as
Yeah, and
God
just to
says, you
think,
know.
like even the sun is a submitter too, and how powerful and like immensely, like powerful in the sense of it's like like fusion type power and like how it'll burn up things and just like how
Mhm.
awesome just the sun is, and that and the sun is
Mhm.
a submitter,
Yeah.
to God, and so
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
people
and just thinking about the sheer sizes of these things, right?
right,
I mean, it's
it's
unfathomable.
hard,
Like
yeah, it's
even if
hard
you
to
think
even
about,
comprehend,
hmm like if you just think about, for example, how big the sun is, right? And you're like, oh, like compared to the Earth, like it's so tiny, the Earth. But when you travel on the Earth, you realize how big the Earth is.
yeah,
You know, like
yeah,
when you're traveling from one city to another, like you look in the airplane, like, oh my gosh, like this is so big, you know?
huge, yeah.
But then think about the sun, and I mean, the Earth is no comparison. But you think about other stars that are hundreds of times bigger than our sun, then your brain stops working, and then you think about, oh, just your galaxy.
Yeah,
There's so
yeah,
many others,
yeah.
and then you go out, you know, like it's you can't think about it.
It's a Panama.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, SubhanAllah, brother. Abdullah said, and all of this, God says in His right hand. Yes. So yeah, I mean, think about and then think about how great God is, subhanAllah. You know? Yeah, and then think about like where Jesus is, and where's Muhammad, and where all these saints
Yeah,
that He gives them
exactly.
so much
Yeah,
power. It's like where are they? Like
yeah.
it's
Like
nothing.
Muhammad's not here to help you, or
Hmm.
like what can he do?
Hmm.
Right?
And think about the gods in size also.
Yeah, because even like
Mm-hmm.
it's silly. Like these sci-fi movies I've seen. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
one of them was with Tom Cruise. It was kind of an interesting one. I mean, there's so many different ones, but it's called Oblivion, and I saw it like several years back, and then
Mm-hmm.
by the end of it, it's like this big trapezoid looking machine thing floating in space, and then like that was like it's little god, little god, right,
Mm-hmm.
further to the earth, and then because I think they were on the planet Titan, but like even that thing is like a not even like a speck of dust, like in
Mm-hmm.
comparison just to a galaxy, like but that's all these idol worshippers can. I mean, I know it was a movie, right? But just
Mm-hmm.
like people who would, there's people out there that think there's some type of like, entity like that or something. Just
Mm-hmm.
they can't even fathom, the greatness of God and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
God be glorified.
Also, we see in verse 60 that God says, supplication is a form of worship. So we should, try to implore God for everything, and because as the message of the covenant also talks about this, an atheist will not implore God for anything. And this footnote, also some one of the footnotes, it says, supplication, imploring God for anything, even material luxuries, is a form of worship. Hence, the commandment to implore God whenever we have any need. An atheist will never implore God for anything. So, it's just we should implore God for everything. Everything we need. We should make it a habit that we ask God for it first before we turn to anything. Because let's say you want to order something, or you want to buy something that you need, ask God for it first, to give you what you need, right, before you get it. Because, God can make sure that, you get what you need. And He's the one who provides for you, So, but when you ask God for it, obviously you just got a way to grow your soul by asking Him for it and, making the right decision eventually to get what you need. So, I mean, there's many ways to think about that, right? But the point is that whatever it is you need, money, children, whatever, groceries, whatever it is, material things, whatever it relates to, work, anything, you implore God for it.
Yeah, mashallah, and it helps making God our God, because
Hmm.
yeah, like who is your God? Is a good question to ask, and and by doing this, we can, so yeah, I like the example you gave. Like if you need, an item or something, or even groceries or lunch, you can be like, oh God, you can make it supplication because He's the one who's giving you the money, or or if you order something too, you
Hmm.
can, yeah, it's a way to remember God. Mashallah.
Yeah, also, I mean, this verse 66 is so difficult for, the Mohammedans, to swallow because, when they're told that Muhammad used to be an idol worshiper, they think that, um, he was a flawless creature who never sinned. They even if you tell them that Muhammad sinned in his life at some point, they will not accept it. They will kill you for blasphemy, but they will not believe it.
Yeah, I actually
And
wondered about that. That was I wondered about that. Yeah, so they don't look at Muhammad as they look at him basically as perfect.
yeah, yeah, just like the Christians look at Jesus
Jesus is perfect, right?
as perfect. They also say because they believe in circumcision, and historically it shows that Muhammad was never circumcised. But they made a hadith saying that Muhammad was actually born circumcised.
He was born. Man, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, how are you born that way? Yeah, it's like I mean, yeah, it's so clear. Like even in Surah 80, he frowned right there. I mean, that whole Surah is a clear cut. But I think yeah, they probably they worship their idols to the point of not wanting to see that.
Yeah, it says here. It says according to some traditions, the Prophet Muhammad was born without a foreskin, while others say that his grandfather circumcised him when he was 7 years old.
Mashallah, their idol worship, it gets exposed, like that's the reason why they leave the Quran, and go to hadiths and these ridiculous things, like you see some hadiths, it's just doesn't make no sense at all, and um, God exposes these people, they leave what's perfect, and follow whatever idol they're following, and these hadiths and all these bad things, it's just exposing themselves like so much, but they don't realize it themselves, but when God assures, makes the truth known to you, these things are known, you truly submit to God, you can see these things,
Yeah, mashallah, brother. It's like it's like God says, like they could, speak the best Arabic or read or know all the literature and all these hadiths and stuff and go to these big colleges, but it's all, it's like all in vain in a way because they're missing the primary message from the Quran. They just fall in love with their idol worship. So they've been prevented from understanding it correctly. And some of these things it's like are so obvious to us, but to them, it's like you try to like look, it's so obvious. Like look right here, it says this, but they're just blocked from seeing it. I mean, even with like Christians too, there's it's right there in their own book, in the Bible, that you should worship God alone, but they're just enthralled in their idolatry.
Yes, subhanAllah. I mean, God has a system in place, right? And based on God's system, when you seek guidance from anything other than the Quran, then you are shackled. If you think about it in like a metaphorical, no, I mean like in an allegorical sense, like God puts all these barriers, around these people, so they can't get the guidance. So they're blocked completely from receiving any guidance at that point. So it's like, it's like you isolate someone in a glass chamber, and you say whatever, talk to them, they can't hear you, because the voice is not just getting through, inside, it's not going in the chamber. It's almost like that, for these people, if you can try to imagine it, but how can you communicate with that person? There's absolutely no way possible that they can understand anything you're saying.
mashallah, right, brother.
It's like how you go to some places where there are people that are sitting behind the glass, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're in some banks and stuff. I know in the US we have, right? So, but then they have like a speaker, like a microphone. You have to speak through it so they can hear you. If they don't have that thing, you know, imagine if this just all glass and you try to talk to them, they'll just see your lips moving, but they can't hear anything intelligible, you know. It's the same thing. Like they see you talking, you see them listening, but they're not listening.
MashaAllah, right, brother. And you know, even you could tell them these things. You know what the Quran says the truth. You know, and then they would just they will make it seem like, you know, like you're the one in the wrong path. You know, like um, we all know. You know, if you tell these traditional Muslims that you don't believe in hadiths, they automatically think that you're the one in the wrong. You know, like they turn it around
Exactly.
on you.
There any more comments or questions from anyone? All right, so if there are no more comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. Thank you, Brother John, for leading the study. God willing, our next Quran study, English Quran study, would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Selamünaleyküm.
Assalamu alaikum. God bless you all.
God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.